The operation that shook the global order began deep within the gold and mineral-rich heart of central Burkina Faso. In a bold and unexpected move, President Ibrahim Traoré abruptly shut down the operations of Mineral X, a French mining company that controlled the largest gold mine in the country. But the true shock came when authorities unlocked a hidden safe inside the company's headquarters in Ouagadougou, revealing secrets buried for half a century. The vault, concealed behind a false wall in the general manager's office, was absent from any official company records. Inside it, investigators discovered thousands of physical and digital documents, an archive of deceit stretching back decades. These revelations not only redrew the economic history of Burkina Faso, but exposed how West Africa as a whole had been systematically exploited. President Traoré had vowed from the start of his presidency to investigate how foreign companies were utilizing national resources. Few expected, however, that this promise would uncover such damning evidence. The documents confirmed widespread exploitation over the past 50 years, with Mineral X reporting gold production far lower than actual output. Secret records showed that production was understated by 40%, with the surplus smuggled out of the country to France, bypassing tax and regulation. This concealed extraction alone amounted to over $8.7 billion, more than half of Burkina Faso's current GDP. The records detailed how Mineral X maintained its grip through corruption, regularly bribing politicians and military officers under the guise of consultancy fees. Environmental inspections were ignored, taxes were evaded, and safety regulations were deliberately neglected. The family of a former president appeared prominently on the company's payment list, inflaming public anger. Perhaps most disturbing were documents revealing the existence of uranium and rare earth elements in the mining region, resources of strategic value that had been secretly extracted and funneled to France with the help of French intelligence. This discovery ignited fears of a broader geopolitical agenda hiding behind corporate interests. Also found were internal scientific reports confirming severe environmental degradation and widespread health issues caused by mining activities. Cancer rates near the mine were 12 times higher than average. Groundwater contamination and agricultural ruin had devastated communities, while the company sought to whitewash its image through token donations labeled as corporate social responsibility. One of the most chilling revelations concerned safety negligence. Hundreds of miners had lost their lives in collapses that the company publicly dismissed as accidents. Internal memos revealed these were actually calculated risks. Safety upgrades were deemed more expensive than compensating victims, so lives were sacrificed in the name of profit. President Traoré, upon reviewing the evidence, declared it proof of a post-colonial system that continued to loot African wealth. He promised full legal action, not only against Mineral X, but against the wider web of foreign exploitation. In response, his administration suspended the activities of all foreign mining companies and launched a sweeping national investigation. The French government, caught off guard, issued a cautious statement calling for independent verification of the documents. Behind closed doors, however, panic reportedly spread among political elites in Paris. The uranium smuggling revelations threatened to stain France's international reputation. Mineral X attempted damage control, questioning the authenticity of the documents and vowing to defend itself legally. But their stock plummeted 43% within 2 days. Investors across Europe scrambled to distance themselves, as shares in other Western mining firms with African operations also nosedived. The scandal ignited a broader movement. Citizens flooded the streets of Ouagadougou in support of Traoré's bold stance. For communities that had suffered environmental and economic devastation for decades, the unmasking of Mineral X was a long overdue reckoning. Internationally, the fallout continued. The African Union convened an emergency meeting, while the UN appointed a special rapporteur. Neighboring countries like Mali, Niger, and Guinea launched reviews of their own mining contracts, signaling a potential domino effect. What began as a single operation in Burkina Faso had now evolved into a continent-wide challenge to Western economic dominance. Traoré's actions breathed new life into calls for African sovereignty over its natural wealth. sparking not just outrage, but a surge of hope that decades of exploitation might finally come to an end. Burkina Faso's recent actions sent shockwaves through global political and economic circles. When President Ibrahim Traoré halted the operations of the French mining giant Mineral X, few could have anticipated the storm that would follow. But the real turning point came when authorities opened a hidden, 2-ton Swiss-made safe inside the company's headquarters in Ouagadougou, a vault known to only a handful within the organization. What they discovered inside shattered decades of silence. Thousands of physical and digital documents, external storage units, and secret correspondence laid bare the scope of a 50-year-long exploitation scheme. Mineral X, which operated the largest gold mine in the country, had been systematically extracting far more than it declared. According to the documents, actual gold production was 40% higher than official figures, and the surplus, worth $8.7 billion in today's terms, was smuggled to France through covert channels. This alone accounted for more than half of Burkina Faso's entire GDP. But the revelations didn't end with economic fraud. The safe contained detailed records of bribes paid to political and military elites across multiple administrations. These payments were disguised as consulting fees, securing the company immunity from environmental oversight, tax obligations, and legal accountability. Even the family of a former president was named among the recipients, igniting public outrage. Disturbingly, the documents also included reports of uranium and rare earth elements discovered during gold mining operations. These strategic minerals had been hidden from the Burkinabe government and exported in secret, an operation allegedly coordinated with French intelligence. Environmental impact reports, authored by the company but never released, revealed catastrophic contamination of groundwater by cyanide and heavy metals, with cancer rates in nearby communities soaring to 12 times the norm. Despite this, the company had tried to clean its image with token donations to local health centers, under the banner of corporate social responsibility. Evidence of intentional negligence was even more chilling. Internal communications revealed that 347 miners had died in collapses over the past 15 years, not due to accident, but because it was financially optimal to avoid investing in safety measures. The company calculated that compensating families cost less than preventing the deaths in the first place. Among the most disturbing findings were documents detailing a covert intelligence operation run by Mineral X. Local journalists and civil society leaders were secretly paid to shape public opinion, while dissidents were blacklisted and threatened. Some files linked the company to the targeted killings of 2 environmental activists. A crisis team had been formed specifically to handle critics, sometimes physically. Perhaps even more damning was the discovery that Mineral X had forged secret partnerships with Western intelligence agencies beyond France. The CIA and MI6 reportedly collaborated with the company to monitor strategic mineral sites, aiming to counter China's growing influence in Africa. In return for intelligence support, these agencies received geological data on rare and valuable deposits. President Traoré responded swiftly, unveiling a bold restructuring of the country's mining sector. All future mining operations would be run by joint ventures where the state holds at least 55% ownership. A social development fund would also be created to ensure that local populations benefit directly through infrastructure and education investments. 4E. Many in Burkina Faso, these revelations confirmed long-held suspicions that their nation's poverty was not due to lack of resources, but to the way those resources were stolen under the guise of development. The documents from the safe exposed a broader strategy, not just economic extraction, but an attempt to manipulate the country's political and social structures to serve foreign interests. The scandal transformed Traoré into a continental figurehead. At the African Union, his speech condemning modern colonialism was met with thunderous applause. African nations began opening their own investigations, and a sense of renewed sovereignty began to ripple across West Africa. A new era of economic self-determination seemed to be taking shape. A secret expansion plan found in the documents revealed that Mineral X intended to double its operations in Burkina Faso within 5 years, and secure rights to newly discovered mineral reserves with the full diplomatic and financial backing of the French government. But these ambitions have now crumbled. As media attention descended on Ouagadougou, investigative journalists from around the world began scrutinizing the scandal. A global consortium revealed that Mineral X had supplied rare earth elements to the French military-industrial complex. Some of the materials were used in France's most advanced weapons systems, yet the most explosive revelation may have been a concealed diamond deposit that the company had discovered, but never disclosed. Shared only with French intelligence, this massive reserve was to be exploited only when a fully cooperative Burkinabe regime came to power. Geologists now believe it could be one of the world's largest diamond reserves. In response, Burkina Faso launched its own geological assessments and confirmed the presence of the deposit. If managed correctly, this resource could change the country's economic trajectory. Meanwhile, many of Mineral X's top executives vanished. The operations director and financial officer reportedly fled France, while French authorities claimed ignorance intelligence leaks suggest they may be under protection by French security services. Burkina Faso issued extradition requests and filed a red notice with Interpol. Adding to the storm, a former Mineral X security guard held a press conference in Paris. He revealed that the company operated a covert surveillance unit tasked with monitoring and harassing activists and journalists. These operations included smear campaigns and, when deemed necessary, physical intimidation. His testimony cast new suspicion on several unsolved violent incidents in recent years. To institutionalize oversight, the Traoré government established the Ministry of National Mineral Resources and Inspection. Aisha Ouedraogo, a journalist, who had been investigating Mineral X for years and received death threats for her reporting, was appointed as its first minister. In her opening statement, she declared, "I no longer need to dig underground to find the truth. It's all in the open now, and it's time to use it for justice." Beyond Burkina Faso, the documents revealed that French companies had coordinated similar operations in Mali, Niger, Guinea, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The nerve center of this network, according to the evidence, was a covert unit in Paris. Traoré immediately shared the documents with neighboring nations, calling for a joint African response. A month later, civil society groups from across West Africa formed the Coalition to Reclaim Africa's Resources. Their first move was to organize simultaneous demonstrations in 25 countries, with millions taking to the streets demanding economic justice. It became the largest continent-wide protest movement in modern African history. The Mineral X scandal didn't just expose the corruption of one company, it laid bare the machinery of neo-colonialism in West Africa. President Traoré's actions may have marked the beginning of a new chapter, not just for Burkina Faso, but for the continent as a whole. The message is now unmistakable. Africa's wealth will no longer enrich outsiders while its people live in poverty. The truth that emerged from that safe in Ouagadougou may well define the future of a continent.